am now master of the world.
We're about to start our fourth panel of the evening, AI and IP, building a framework for AI intellectual property and fair use. Presenting our panelists, first, on the first seat, Mr. Daniel Allen, Danny Zuker.
Hello.
Award-winning American TV writer and producer, best known for his role in Modern Family. With 30 years experience, he's worked on hits like Just Shoot Me, Norm, Housebroken, Ruzarin, and earning 6 Emmys. Zuker is a bold and outspoken figure making significant contributions for television. The second panelist in this star-studded event is Mr. Diego Ruzarin, the CEO of Foodlosofia. Critical thinker and content creator with 7 million social media followers, his global career center for food design challenges societal norms, exploring cultures and questioning traditional values. Fluent in multiple languages, Ruzarin promotes critical thinking throughout his broadcast. ¿Por qué crees lo que crees? Which translates to why do you believe in what you believe? And his book Incongruencias Pseudo-Intelectuales. Through travel and outline platforms, he stimulates critical discourse and innovation in the world of food design and just stuff. Mr. Stuart Sullivan worked with diverse list of artists: Sublime, James McFurry, Tejano great artists, Tejano greats like Little Joe and La Familia, The Meat Puppets, The Dead Man Milken, James Cotton, and Willie Nelson.
And in this corner, least but not last. No, wait, last but not least, Charles Godfrey. Charles had a long history at the Sonic Ranch in El Paso. At this stage of the game, one of the most legendary studios or complex of studios there has been in America. He moved to Austin about 80 years ago and moved into the Mosaic, a free-for-all, barely alive complex that housed dozens and dozens of wonderful musicians, and he made his mark in a big way. Some of the bigger acts he's worked with are
Cody Jinks, Portugal the Man, Band of Horses.
That's good enough. That's good enough.
And Plastilina Mosh, which are for Monterrey. All you need is Mosh. That album. He worked on that album. Yeah.
Awesome. Charles has been doing this for a long time, and even though I'm much older than him, at this stage of the game, I'm taking lessons from him.
Wow.
I aspire to have that type of life. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And Charles, guys, I'm very sorry that I got screwed up with information and people at stage.
Yeah, don't apologize.
I certainly hope people will be fired over this.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Heads will roll at the 501c3 Nomadx Foundation, where everybody's a volunteer.
Someone will get a raise.
Figuring somebody's not going to get a raise this Christmas. No tequila for you. Okay, so basically, we're going to start this off by basically talking a little bit about what AI is. AI is revolutionizing the creative industry. In this panel, we'll expose the significance, this sometimes double-edged sword, and discuss the challenges surrounding AI. So we're going to try to touch on different areas of expertise and try to determine not just whether it's good or bad, but what part of the process should and shouldn't happen, if it should at all. So I'd like to first start this rolling by giving the first question to you, my friend. Yes. What is your perspective in how has the integration of AI impacted the landscape of intellectual property in the creative industry?
So first, talking about AI is kind of hard, and it's weird in the sense that we misuse the word upfront. We're using it wrong. Because when we say artificial intelligence, we're already normalizing a dichotomy between artificial and natural. So what is artificial? What is man-made? What is natural? What is not man-made? So this dichotomy already put us in a conundrum when trying to approach the idea of artificial intelligence. Then there's also the subdivision within artificial intelligence, that there's hard AI, soft AI, adaptive AI. So it's a very, very complex subject. Even when we say we have reached something that is even resembles what we could call artificial intelligence, we pretend that is mimicking something that is intelligence in itself. But to be honest, and this I think is something that we're already pre-discussing, we don't know what intelligence is. Like, we have a context and a sense of what is the meaning behind the word intelligence, but we cannot even describe consciousness. We cannot describe intelligence. We use it as a metaphor to describe a process that seems natural to us. So already something that we are very, very troubled to determine and to define properly. And then to say we are able to recreate it and make an artificial version of into it is monumental narcissism, according to me, in my sense. But having said that, I think what is interesting about the question is the relationship between the creation of a new technology, which is this artificial mimicking of human psychic processes, and then the relationship with individual private property. Also, private property is a complicated notion in regard to creativity and arts, because in something that is created to be sold is by definition a product, not a piece of art. A piece of art is supposed to be this free manifestation of a spirit, you know, a subversive attitude towards material conditions, challenging and daring aspect to a new hopeful reality. But you cannot create something to sell it and call it art. That by definition is complicated, because like by liberal definitions, artisans were the ones that created products to be sold, and artists were the ones that were bound to create because they could not do it. So already the language game already show us the complication between having something that we call AI, even if it's not truly artificial and it's not truly intelligence, and then creating this dichotomy between who's the proprietor. And when we talk about private property and artificial intelligence, it also raises the question of the property of the artist for its art. So when you create, what are you creating? What do you produce out of your inspiration? You are affected by a series of previous variables that you are entangled with in your environment, and your ability to subjective manifestation of that resistance produces art. But then we are all co-owners of everything we produce. There's a famous sentence by Salvador Dali when he was engaged by the German Nazis, and they came to confiscate his paintings, and they said, "Who painted this?" And Salvador Dali replied, "You did. This is a product of your brutality." So art, it's a product of contingent situations within a material and time frame. So when we talk about property of artificial intelligence, we also have to reflect on how we judge property of the artist, because the artist is also a product of his time and his influence. So I think in order for us to move ahead as creatives, protect ourselves, protect the industry, it's important to use the paradigm and the challenge of artificial intelligence to reflect on how we deal ourselves with individuality, self-recognition, meritocracy, property over rights, our relationship to art. So it truly opens up a very, very healthy and necessary debate, according to me, especially in this time and moment. Does it make sense?
Does anybody want to add to that? Danny?
Doesn't seem like there's anything to add. That was comprehensive.
Quite eloquent.
Yes.
I might, touch on that you brought up was, the separation between art and commerce, essentially.
Yeah.
And AI to me is an outgrowth of the commerce.
I agree.
It has very little to do with the art. Unfortunately, our culture has been shifting and basically shifting its perception of what art is to thing. And so now AI becomes some form of real creativity simply because it's copying real creativity, and the audience is happy to accept that.
Would you like to add something?
Well, there are many types of AI productions, and it comes in a lot of varying degrees as well. The ways that I've seen people start to use AI and the way that they put it into their creative aspects are kind of honestly not reaching the levels that what the creative potential that a human actually has. And until that comes up to those points, like I've tried to use AI in many ways, but it's not latching on. I'm still having to add to it. I'm still having to put the final touch on things that need to be done.
Yeah.
And I don't think that personally it's going to come up to where it needs to be to overcome what we can give.
But that's just because you like quality.
Absolutely.
But that's the thing. Like AI can, comedy writers' perspective, because I was just on strike for about 150 days, and this is one of the things AI can currently write bad comedy, and there's bad comedy out there. And so when people are talking about what you're defending there, it's like, yeah, I am as angry at the humans who make formulaic comedy, and I'm as angry at the humans who make formulaic pop music as I am about the AI. I don't care, for me, if those people lose their job. But I also, I don't know, I think that there's a lot of a sky is falling a little bit with, because I'm with you. There right now there's currently like AI is just not good enough to like, it's not going to be like, I'm not going to listen to an AI record and feel the same way I felt about OK Computer. You know, it's like, I'm not going to have that moment where I'm listening to it, because by definition, like what is current in art or comedy or film is you diverge from what everybody else is doing and you create the next thing. And then a lot of people mimic it. Now, the way AI is currently constructed, it has no ability to do that because it's sampling from everything that we've done and giving us more of that. The ability to have that bolt of inspiration, or, you know, I was joking, but until AI's father doesn't show him any affection, it's not going to be a good comedy writer. One of the few advantages of being like an old fuck is that like I've seen the death of my industry declared so many times. Like, you know, when I first came in, like DVDs were coming up. What does that mean? And we're fighting for DVDs, and it was like, and when we, you know, we have to get this thing, and then we fought for DVDs, but meanwhile streaming was coming on, and no one's going to stream. We have no idea what it will ultimately be. And so there's two ways to approach AI from a creative standpoint, and the other way is to be like fear it and fight it, because it's not going away. There's no history of any technology that human beings have ever come up with that we've said, no, enough of that. Like we never thought like, oh, maybe this nuclear bomb isn't such a great idea. No, we built more. And that's like the worst case scenario of it. So the best way to position yourself creatively is to say like, how can I fucking use this tool? It still needs human beings. And like for me as a comedy writer, I was thinking about this, and it was we were looking for like, I wanted like a fastidious person in the mid 1960s, kind of like a Felix Unger type that was taking place in the mid 1960s. And what I would normally do is I would normally go on Google, a device we also thought would be like,
Revolutionary.
A revolutionary. But I then go on Google and I'd write, I just gave them somebody who I knew ChatGPT. I said, what are some qualities like an anal retentive in the 60s might rail against? And, you know, and one, you know, they came up with your ashtray is always full, you know, like, which would never happen in an apartment today, or things like that. And so it's not writing that for me, but it's doing the research. And so I feel like if I can use that as a tool to cut through my research, but I still have to do the comedy writing.
I think that, yeah, you're using it as a tool, as you said. Like,
yeah,
we have to, as I've experienced it, there's the tool is only going to go so far.
Yeah.
It's a source of inspiration.
Yeah.
And like as producers or as somebody who's trying to like get the creative process out there,
yeah,
it's a way also of like you'll find more success also if you have your finger on the pulse of society,
right,
or something of that nature. So being able to see where the averaged out AI algorithm can give you this like basic platform of, hey, this is what people are of that.
Yeah. Okay. Go. Yeah.
So basically, you touched on something really, really important, and I think it's a great place to build on, which is the tool. So first of all, you know, I'd like to see if you guys are using it in any way, in any capacity, to what capacity, and the process. So the process is the soul of the product, right?
So there's a couple of things, like double up on what Danny said, which I think is this notion of that we tend to behave very fatalistic to new technologies, right? And this is not new by any means. You know, Plato wrote a book about the death of memory because of the invention of the books. Like when books came into being into ancient Greece, everybody was like, oh my God, this is the death of memory. We'll never remember anything else because books exist. Can you imagine? Like this attitude of fatalism towards technology is not even close to new. We have always been skeptic and fatalistic. But then again, this doesn't imply that we have to be naive towards technology. It's not the fact that what we do with technology, but technology changes us in response as well. Technology, in a way, is a method for us to engage with the world and to engage with each other. It's like any other tool. You know, when we invented the telescope or the thermometer or the compass, it's a way for us to relate to reality. So is AI. But I think since it's so new, we haven't necessarily understand how AI is going to reshape us back after creating it. The other thing is that
flatten it out.
Sorry?
It's gonna flatten it out.
Yeah, we need to we need to hammer against it to see where it leads us and how it changes back retrospectively.
But then, as Daniel was saying earlier, like or Danny was saying earlier, like you have these things like how would Nirvana come around, or how would this new source of a totally new genre come about?
So if I may, that's why, like, normally when we address what is the source material of AI is common knowledge. It's almost common sense, you know, like is the ultimate or flatteization of the, you know, common opinions. Is the Aristotelian commonplace. Is like the democratic word, what most people think, but that doesn't necessarily trigger the new, because newness, true inventiveness, doesn't come from democratization of knowledge.
Mistakes.
Exactly. This is exactly the point. Like computers don't make mistakes. This is weird. Like if they make a mistake, it's because they were misprogrammed, you know. But they don't inherently make mistakes. We as subjects, we can misinterpret something. Like Danny said, unless the computer become traumatized by abusive father, it will not produce comedy. Why? because we are as subjects, we are able to re-signify a real event in the material world and give it meaning. Because we tell stories about what happens to us. Computers cannot do that.
No, and that's the process. That's the beauty of the process.
And one thing that I wanted to bring up, which was kind of the flip side of how we've been seeing this, we've been discussing the idea of using AI largely as a creative process. And that to this day kind of confuses me because of all the reasons we've said. It's not actually creative.
Exactly.
What I find the use of AI, and many years ago I got a phone call and a dinner was arranged, and I met a gentleman and we talked all night long about this new technology. And it turns out he was the founder of Pandora Music. And he wanted me to become one of the people who would evaluate songs and then categorize them based on 21 different things, an increasing number of things. And so the evaluation of music is where AI, I think, is controlling our industry. You look at, you know, all the download, you know, Tidal, Spotify, Apple, all of them, they're all using AI to evaluate what's going on and then spit it back to you in what they hope will be a very
sophisticated data scraping.
Exactly. No, and that's how I use it. Like I do a lot of digital stuff. So when I have a client and I'm trying to analyze a lot of data, I've learned how to harness the power of 3 language models of AI and basically just put all this information of a specific client, of a specific company, and not internet content, not cultural content or whatever, just their specific content, analyze it, and go through thousands and thousands of PDFs that it would take me an eternity to and just give me good information that I still have to go back and check and then figure out what the strategy is. But the AI will never give me an original strategy.
You know, but that is to me actually a reasonable use of AI, because at this stage of the game, you would have to program in mistakes or program in irregularities to be able to come up with possible. And the problem is, it's not the computer that recognizes the beauty of the mistake. It's the human that recognizes the beauty of the mistake.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have a fundamental issue before AI can truly be creative.
It works on the basic level for like the 101 classes. It gets all the people who want to get interested into these things, and it can get them to dive into it. But when it comes to the prolific creative processes, that's still going to be on the human level for as long as I can see.
And Diego, you said something the other day that was really, really beautiful. That basically is you need psychologically a human validation to generate communication.
Yeah.
So again, you will never get validation. Here, you said it about psychology.
Yeah, and this is weird. Like last week, I was invited to a conversation with the people from Sony, and they were worried about this song that came out that was mimicking Bad Bunny. I don't know if you saw the news. And Bad Bunny was really pissed because the AI-produced song mimicking Bad Bunny was making more viral videos in TikTok than the real songs from Bad Bunny. But you see, why is this interesting? Relating back to your notion of the relationship between musical production and commercial musical production, right? Because the logic of the market is to maximize margins of profits. So that what they will do is that through data scraping and retroactive biases feeding, they will find the perfect formula for the current hit song, right? And they're very efficient doing that. They know how long the hit has to last this. We need so many repetitions of the chorus. You know, we need to hit these notes. and they will create the perfect song for that paradigm as a product, right? But then what you have done is that you have diminished the value of the songwriter to the ultimate commodity, a formula.
But one thing we can't do is we can't pretend that this hasn't been happening forever.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, the thing is,
Okay.
is that we have been regurgitating what's been successful
Commercial music.
endlessly, and
Yeah.
and the computer has just given us a more effective tool to do it, but it's
Turbo.
not where it started.
Everybody's always chasing a hit. We always talk about that in television. Like, you know, so Friends comes on, and then there are 9 shows you cannot remember. Like,
Trying to be
The
friends.
Single Guy or whatever. Like, they're never as good.
Was that a thing?
Yeah, there was a show, The Single Guy.
It's insane, but yeah, why not?
By the way, the 90s were a fantastic place to start writing television because you didn't have to be very good and you could get really rich because there was so much shit out there. So I also like don't promote that. I would also say though, like, we don't know. We're sitting here talking about it like we know what will happen in 10 years.
Yeah.
We really don't. This is ultimately artificial intelligence is ultimately a much bigger issue than making music and TV. I think. I mean, if you think about like, I'm not a huge fan of Mark Zuckerberg as a person. I don't think he set out to destroy humanity. But I think I don't.
Yeah, it was an unintentional effect
Right.
of dating. Yeah, he just wanted to get laid.
They created an algorithm, and it had very simple things. What's going to get clicks, and what's going to have people hit it? And it turned out the algorithm figured us out really quickly that anger and rage get us to click and stay on a thing longer than saving the kitten story.
Yeah.
And so that algorithm then doubles down. And so, like, I always thought, like, the Terminator was all about, like, the robots are going to come and wipe us all out. And what it turned out was, no, they're going to figure out a way to make us kill each other and hate each other.
And they're going to write poetry.
And so whatever's happening else, I mean, those are sort of the bigger issues about these things that are, we just don't know. There's a great sociologist named James Burke who in the 70s, I don't remember, he did a series for the BBC called Connections. And it's an amazing, I recommend finding it. He has a new one out right now on Curiosity Stream. He's like 80-something, and he's still brilliant. But in the first one, he starts it at the blackout of New York City in like 1978. And he says, what if society broke down? Where would we start again? And he takes us out to the field, and he finds an old, like, you know, the oldest plow. Like, it's a plow. He goes, you'd start here. And in 8 episodes, he takes you from the plow to the nuclear bomb. And says, like, we had this invention here, which led to this and this. And, you know, the people, like, you know, somebody inventing, like, a cure for malaria discovered refrigeration. And we got a refrigerator. We don't know what's going to happen. And everything's happening so fast. It's like, you'll drive yourself crazy. So that's why the advice is always to sort of, like, ride the wave. Figure out your place in this world as we go forward. So,
You know, one thing in this picture that kind of connects to that is that, for me, the kind of separation from the human from the product has been going on for so long, and it really accelerated when we got to like Napster and stuff like that, because still people are getting paid, but the person that creates it and the person that makes it is now being separated from the product, and that has continued on in many forms ever since. And you know, AI is just another step in that whole, you know, kind of like tumbling down of our system that's been in place for generations and generations and generations to be able to keep things creative.
It'd be interesting to follow who's getting rich off of AI, and then we'll find out some of the motivation.
Oh, I so want to get into
Follow the money. Follow the money.
But it is a little
I
bit
so
like
want to
that.
get into that.
It is a little bit like that.
No.
I'm going to sound like, I don't only look like Bernie Sanders, I'm going to sound like him. But yeah, I mean, we've ceded all, like, we're so anti-government and blah, blah, blah. And government has its problems, but we've given all that power. Like, all our society resides with the largesse of billionaires. And so we say, oh, don't pay taxes, and all of that money will come down to us. But instead, all that money buys Twitter and destroys it, or builds penis-shaped rockets that don't help anybody.
Danny Zuker.
Or sounds like,
Comrade Danny
yeah,
Zuker.
and I'm not. I'm a capitalist. I don't want to be this guy.
Oh no, but here's the
I
thing.
just want to share the wealth. It's like, yeah,
Bringing it back down to non-rocket sized. So, Danny, you were just in the middle of a 127-day strike.
yeah.
So
I was.
IP was a huge thing in that strike, I believe, and the role AI had in the creation of future content. Could you just elaborate a little bit on those conversations on a professional level of what was negotiated or seen?
I was not with the whole. I felt like it was a little bit of a red herring to some extent. I'm glad with the gains we got. Basically, that you like any use of AI must be declared on certain things, and it has to. There and already my girlfriend right now is an exec over at Peacock, and they are not allowed to have AI on their computers, and for very practical reasons. In that, like, other networks can sort of see their prompts and know, oh, they're developing the show. There's like the lack of privacy, so it's a selfish thing, and again, like I said, at the moment, I think it's a bigger issue for the actors, frankly. Like, so because I march with all my actor friends, and the idea that you can take somebody's likeness, or right now we have the technology to just, like, I can create a radio ad using somebody's voice that they never said, and you will not be able to tell, and it's really, I played around with this technology, using, just saying a few things into my own voice and leaving a message on somebody, and it was like, it's indistinguishable, my voice.
Yeah, James Earl Jones just signed away his likeness for Star Wars, and
is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So they can do whatever they want with his Darth Vader.
That's crazy.
AI. Alexa, play Imperial March.
So please see it.
Yeah, it's true. Well, going into that topic, I think it really boils down to this notion of property. And it's strange that what brings fear out of this notion of artificial intelligence, that is something that we could, as humanity, cherish on, is the fact that some people will starve. Because this will also lead to an increasingly vast amount of accumulation in fewer hands. In the sense that because of the speed, because of the velocity, because of the capacity of data scraping, gracias. She tried to be so subtle, and I'm like,
gracias,
that's okay.
She
brought me tequila. It was awesome. You didn't see it, but it was perfect. Yeah. So this notion of property is what is intriguing to me, because what is conflicting about this idea is that, okay, so I don't mind the freedom of the market to be able to, because again, when these guys started doing artificial intelligence, the intentions were humanitarian or philanthropic, but then the profit motive came in and changed even the artificial intelligence industry, and the data scraping took over. The profit and productivity applications took over. So then the technology itself, even what it could be that we don't know, we have no idea how to predict it, it became another tool for the proliferation of the profit motive. And then again, everything revolves around this notion of efficiency, production, mass reproduction. And my question, which is truly intriguing, is creativity, true creativity, necessary for the music industry, not arts, the music industry? Is true creativity necessary if we get to a point where artificial intelligence is even dumb enough to come up with lousy comedy or lousy music? Like, what's going to happen to the fringes? Because in a way, we could be easily pushed out because it doesn't make money.
I have a feeling strongly that AI in general is a virus that, and it's not necessarily a virus that's going to kill us, but it's a virus that will continue to weaken us in more and more ways that we don't know about. And, there's really nothing we can do about it. And so as a result, we just have to adapt to it.
Yeah, it's sort of, no, I'm so loud and you're so soft-spoken.
I think there's still going to be the individuals, though, that will still pop out and stand above that, though. I think there's still be individuals that will pop out above all and any kind of planed out AI formula that will come out and create a new genre, create new
creativity
formulas.
Has always ended up popping through, but it's going to be a thicker layer for it to pop through.
Well, but it's like people keep talking about the rise of artificial intelligence, and not to be glib, I know we were joking before, but it was like, you should also be concerned with the decline of traditional intelligence.
Yes.
The populace getting less intelligent, less well-read. Those two things go hand in hand. So an educated populace will listen to music that is clearly factory made and reject it. And I mean, the reason for me, it's like when these streamers are out there and I see like the head of these streamers making fortunes and not paying the writers or the creatives. Those they need show like HBO Max needed Succession, to be a thing that people would pay for. And if they're just putting out AI, like no one's going to buy that. You're going to get bored by that, or you're going to dumb down the populace.
Well, the populace, I believe, ultimately is getting dumbed down and
Yeah.
more lazier.
Not this populace.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the most educated populace in Austin.
Well, no, I would say half of this room is pretty educated.
I would say that there was something that happened within the music industry throughout like the early 2000s to mid-teens, where we already kind of went through this like dumbification of music, and we are coming out of it now.
I think so too.
Because like even look at like the way that most T-shirts that kids in high school are wearing, they're from bands from 2000.
They love our music. It's amazing.
You know what I mean? Because there's nothing that stuck throughout this time when we gained just first control of computers and being able to do anything and everything, and we realized eventually after 15 years there's a human element that you have to retain
Completely.
and until AI can actually make that.
There was a moment, it's because you just articulated it so well, but I always remember this moment in my car where my kids were really little. They used to have the Disney Channel on Sirius XM, and you were hearing these teeny bop songs. And there was a moment when I thought we were listening to that. When I was listening to it, had morphed into all pop music, and it just flattened out. But now I agree with you. There's a lot of very interesting music sort of breaking through again.
And it's the stuff that's showing success.
Yeah.
The stuff that is human. The things that do make mistakes, as Stuart was saying earlier too.
Yeah.
But that's the cycle we've always gone through. I mean, I think of the one from a number of years ago where and no offense to anybody that liked hair bands, but that became a thing, and it became kind of a pathetic thing at a certain point. And eventually Nirvana showed up and the world exploded. And before that there was Pat Boone, and then the Beatles showed up.
Yeah.
And this is a cycle that has happened over and over, and it happens in a quasi-generational move. And we're going through that right now. I think you're exactly right in the sense that we have found ourselves in such a mechanized amount of music that, once again, kind of the human aspect is showing itself to be what's beautiful.
Winner.
Yeah.
No, and somebody who was 2 years older than me said was when I was bemoaning this like a decade ago, and he was a real boomer and was at Woodstock, but he said like what people forget is that there were a lot of really shitty folk bands too. Like it was like all like a mighty wind. It was like a lot of that for every Joan Baez there was that stuff, and look, I never hated disco, but like I liked the Bee Gees, but then there were 9 million. Then we got Disco Duck. It was like. Okay, I don't mean to rain on Disco Duck. Rick Dees is fantastic. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on your. I know you have the poster.
Yeah, but I think it's also this generational teaching that convenience trumps all, and that making things easier. One is like I just don't see that many kids. I'm talking about Latin America learning to play instruments.
Yeah,
something so
basic.
Yeah. Because they just say, "Oh, well, I'll just get my computer to do it."
But that's also art. I have to say, like I watch, my son's in a band. And he's like 22, and he was there. And one of his friends it's amazing. Like I needed something for something I was doing. I was just happened to be in the room, and he left and just like created this thing on his Pro Tools and just got, and it was like he made it. He used tools, but he made it. It was like, I remember in the 70s, there were a lot of bands that were sort of decrying the synthesizer. And then they put out their synth album, and it was amazing. It was like...
So, there's a very interesting story that I love. One of the first punk bands in New York in the late 50s called Suicide. I don't know if you guys remember this. So it was the first guys that used a drum machine, and they... drum machines were before the 50s where they were used to, give sound to an elevator or to a lobby, and you just put the drum machine on a set velocity and it will set and imitate the drums, right? So the cool thing is that the beginning of the drum machine was to replicate the sound of a drum. But then what they did with the drum machine was interesting. They set it up to a speed that was impossible to do to humans. So they set the rhythm to something that a human will never be able to do in a drum set. And they created something new out of this technology. So the question is not what technology can replicate, because if you're stuck in that loop of what technology can replicate, you will always arrive at the same place. The question is, what else can this technology do? So this is our approach to our relationship, because if you look at a hammer and you just use a hammer to punch nails, that's the only thing the hammer will do. As soon as you find out that the hammer can do other stuff like art and like carve a marble piece into a statue, then you think about it differently.
It can be a weapon too.
No, but
Kill a hooker.
no, but yeah, of course, yeah, I kill a hooker. She's in my trunk. So yeah, the question concerning technology, and probably this is one of my favorite essays from Heidegger, is when we take that step and do something else with it. Because in a way, I think the artistic aspect, and not only music but entertainment as well, that needs to be maintained is art. It's able to put into a tangible medium what words cannot express about a certain period of time, right? So only through music we are able to convey a meaning that we cannot articulate with words. So artificial intelligence, according to me, is just one more tool to do that.
I wonder if it would be helpful to go around the room and each quote our favorite essay from Heidegger.
Yes,
Heidegger?
I believe that.
Yeah.
Great
Or Hegel, or Plato. I'll lower my bar.
Get it? You read.
But I only read. That's my problem. Yeah.
Hey, never forget. You read, you get smart. You get smart, you get depressed. Ignorance is bliss.
Exactly.
I'm gonna stop reading.
Okay, so
No, I like
in short, Danny, for your personal process, AI, yay or nay?
it. It doesn't matter.
No, but you don't like to use it? You don't want to use it?
I'm not gonna. I'm not currently using it. I don't find a need for it yet. That said, I can't say I won't use it. I can't say like I won't. I imagine I will use it in the way I use Google at a certain point.
Perfect.
Like honestly, that'll just be enhanced search for me. So,
What about yourself, sir?
You know, there's no way to stop it. So when the opportunity comes for me to use it in a creative way, I won't hesitate because it's just another tool. And I like tools.
I feel that AI is a great source of inspiration for people that can bring further capabilities to that source material. I remember trying to write a paper, Reporting Academy, one time, and it was based off of an individual, Wes Dooley, and I was like trying to research it. And I was like, write a book. I know, right? And just it wrote out this whole essay, but 40% of it was absolute bullshit.
it just lies.
It was just why it made up a bunch of stuff.
They're not going to read it.
So like it's as much as like not depending on your source of it, but realizing how much of it is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it's
So-
lies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So using it as a source of writing in the right direction, and maybe, but
Yeah.
it'll never be able to like solidify what argument you're trying to make or anything like that, especially within some kind of creative process where you're taking steps outside of like certain boundaries that exist.
So we'll be able to use AI to create bullshit.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
great tool. Yeah,
Now,
Then I'll be out of work.
professional.
personally, I believe that again, AI is a great tool, as we said, but we have as creatives to be very, very wary that it's a tool that can make us very, very lazy, because everything right now is trying to make things easier and more convenient. And I use quotes very, very unhesitantly here, because I believe that things, when they get very easy, they get very bad, very flat. And as creatives, if we don't subscribe to using AI in a strategic way as a source of getting out of a funk, or trying to break a cycle, or trying to think differently, we're going to lose that connection from point A to B, because a computer will not make mistakes. If you ask a computer to go from A to B, it's going to go from A to B. But sometimes the magic lies in C. And that's what we talked about, the mistakes. And that's what makes us grow as creatives, and what makes the next thing easier and better, because we're learning from C. We might not even make money off of C, but we learn from C. And I just think personally that, again, it's a great tool, but we have to be very, very careful. So I want to hand the microphone to somebody if they want to have something. Microscope.
Yeah,
Yes. If somebody wants
it looks into your soul. Yeah, my soul is speaking.
Please forgive me for interjecting. It's not really a question, but more of just a comment. As a creative, I'm a musician. And so often when you're a creative person trying to do something with the thing that you love, you have to be an entrepreneur, which means you're learning many different skills and putting on many different hats. So when I personally think about AI, I think about the logical and practical ways that it can help me become a better artist, which is I'm a musician. And when I write a song, I'm channeling whatever you want to think of it as, creative conscience, my soul, my emotions. I'm not going to rely on AI to do that for me. But the things that I can see AI helping me with is the things that maybe I don't want to spend so much time on, which is formatting content creation. So it has a long way to go, but for right now, for where it's at, the things that I think it's useful for is, I'm a musician. I want to spend more time on my craft. I don't necessarily want to become a social media expert. And there's many different platforms and they're changing all the time and it's hard to keep up with. So what I like to use AI for is I have a show next week and I need to advertise this show on 5 different platforms, and each platform has its own algorithm for what's going to be successful to get more eyes on my show information. AI can help me take this one set of information about the show and formulate it 5 different ways to get it across all these different platforms. And so I do think, like you said, it is easy to get this flat, the sky is falling, AI is going to replace me, but and it is easy to think that way. But right now, as an artist, I'm not thinking about how is AI going to write my songs for me? How is AI going to help me cover these other areas of life that I don't want to invest my energy for? Human beings, we're like, it's our default setting to try to conserve energy. So I want to put more energy into my art and less energy into all these other things that I have to do to be able to give my art to people and live my life.
That's
and
really
that's
cool.
all I wanted to say.
No, it's cool. You're using AI to talk to another AI. It's like whatever the algorithm is, like it's speaking that for you. So it's good. It's a great use of it.
I think you can totally hack it into your favor. But in that sense, what is dangerous that putting yourself at the will of the algorithm or of the logic of the machine, to say it in a poetic way, is that you compromise that which makes you unique. In a sense, it's almost like we have to fight for our uniqueness. And I really like a comment that you make that there's this sense of a constant process of alienation, that we don't feel property over what we create. We constantly feel that what we create is more and more alien to us. That's what the meaning of the word alienation, like you create, but whenever you create, there's this sense of separation between the creator and the created. And it's strange because the more you put more tools in the middle between you and your creation, you're not touching the strings, you're not making the sounds. Like there's something in between and the result. It becomes alien to you because you don't necessarily fully understand the peculiarities. It's strange. Digital production tends to be much more separated from the creator than craft creation. When you build a stone wall or you build a fence out of wood, or you create a song directly into your guitar, you have this sense of mechanical and muscular connection to music because you are producing everything with a movement of your body. So it's a fully integrated sentiment. But when there's so much artificiality between the production, whatever comes out of that pipeline, you feel like a partial sense of property. There's a black box in the middle that is doing something in your place. And that, according to me, creates a gap, a dangerous gap between the artist and the art.
And it's a big question mark that a lot of us have as creators too. It's distribution and getting your music or getting your art out there. And that's what she was saying. It can really help get you set up for multiple platforms with one clear, concise idea. And me being on the creative side, I'm blessed to be on that area and that realm where I can expand those things and use AI to the degree that I do. But there are massive impacts and dangers, of being able to use that within distribution.
One thing I want to say about distribution is that there is such universal distribution on so many avenues, and it's endless, and it's kind of made it worthless to a certain degree. There used to be an exclusivity to a release, and that has disappeared completely. And as a result, it's kind of a little bit vague when music is released, because great stuff comes out and you can't really tell it from one thing or another because you are overwhelmed. I mean, how can you taste this one thing in a gallon of water?
Well, I think what that's coming down to is and it's also coming as we were talking earlier, like Diego was talking earlier, here comes what is the next step within AI and how it can bring it. And I really do believe that we can come through. Sorry, I got distracted. I was like, what's so exciting over here? It will. Forgive me. I will come to this point.
His fault.
It's his fault.
Artificial intelligence will never do this.
You work with such a fan, so it's like it's great. Whatever you have to say is fantastic.
I'm totally distracted now from where we were a minute ago.
Distribution.
Yeah, distribution and the way that we'll get that out. But it's, I'll come up with it in 1 minute. Bear with me.
I'm just going to praise the beauty of sophomoric humor.
Any other questions? Please.
You mentioned something about
Microphone.
being lazy. What are your thoughts about like our future as humanity? Are we gonna become like dumber? Or, like,
Put it right to your mouth.
Like if
I
you
think
were
it's
a
about-
hip
what
hop
are your
artist.
thoughts about our future as humanity? Like, are we gonna become like dumber because we're gonna be so dependent, or people are gonna become so dependent of?
Let me start because you're gonna take over.
We're all gonna die. It's gonna be terrible. I don't want to break. You probably don't want to hear this from a comedy writer, but
Yeah, it's
none of us.
it's bleak.
No, we'll have thoughts on it. No one knows.
Exactly.
Honestly, we're at a precipice.
You know, and that's one of the things that I want to get to in a more non-comedic way. Basically, saying one of the big issues that I find negative with society is that people try to find inspiration from people that have real experience in other subjects. So, like, if I'm a world-class economist and talking about something that's not my realm, it just happens all the time now. And I will tell you exactly what Danny's saying. I don't know. And but I think it's kind of common sense sometimes that we have to strive to be less lazy, because the lazier we get, the easier controlled we become, and we become part of a cog that we don't want to be in, and at the helm of billionaires that are just playing a little game. And I'll leave it to you because I think you have a lot to talk about this.
So I think it's the question concerning automation. Is that it? Like, is our relationship to how it's weird, right? As a society, we should be celebrating whatever is automation. I think if you take a feudal peasant and you tell him within 100 years there's a machine that can do your job with 1,000-fold efficiency, everybody will be like, "Fuck yeah, the future looks awesome." But no, because you need to work to survive. Because if you don't make money, you're going to starve. I mean, we can produce food to feed 10 billion people. We have 7.4. There's 15% starving and 20% with the. So efficiency stopped being a problem around the 80s. Okay, regarding consumption. Right now, most of efficiency goes into overproduction and trash. Right. So efficiency is not a problem for a long time. Like since the 80s, we know efficiency is not a problem. But we haven't stopped, because efficiency doesn't solve for the problem of consumption. It solves for the problem of profit. So for profit, efficiency is great. Not necessarily for human necessities, but for profit. So what happens is that efficiency directly responds to the need of increasing margins of profit, but people are still in need. So what is strange is that what we should fight for is not necessarily to be antagonistic to development and technology. I mean, that's an unavoidable process. I mean, we evolve, not we evolve. I don't think we're not even free. Material processes evolve because they are resolving historical contradictions. What we should fight for is the result of technology, is what is technology used for. We should aim for an ethical use of technology. We should aim for technology that actually provides benefits, and not only for capital, but for humans, in the process.
And as to the lazy question, which I think is like, and are we basically going to be those fat people in Wall-E on the things? I mean, I think this does require more personal responsibility. I talk about this all. I talk to my kids, but like, so when I was a kid, like even through like college, I had in my head memorize 8 to 10 people's phone numbers, minimum. I knew where I could read, I knew what this person's phone number was, and it was just like, oh, I got to call somebody. I knew those phone numbers. I have to think now about maybe 2 other phone numbers. I'm dating somebody for like the last 6 months. I don't know what her phone number is. I just push a button. That was unheard of. I still remember in 8th grade, this girl, Abby, who showed me her boobs, and she said, "Call me." And she said, "Yeah." And she says, call me. My number is 992 8317.
That's your password,
and
right?
I was like, I'm out there. I'm trying. And I was like 8317, 99283. And I still have that, but I don't do that anymore. And you also think about like, and maybe some of you are old enough to remember this, but like when I moved to LA, you know, you have these things called the Thomas Guide, which was a book of maps to get around, and I would actually like use a map, like, oh, here's how I'm going to have to get to that house, or I have directions or things like that. And I have an amazing, I prided myself on coming to any new city and within a couple days, really being able to navigate, like knowing where it is. That part of my brain has just been completely outsourced to GPS now. So I do think we need strategies to keep our brain alive with those things. And you can see this in other ways too. Like you'll read, like I remember watching Ken Burns's documentary on the Civil War. And there were like, basically like peasant farmers who wrote more eloquently to their wives than, you know, literary master degree candidates at like Ivy League in that moment, because that was how they communicated. Their ability to craft a sentence, like there were no emoticons, there were no emojis, there was no short, like if I wanted to communicate how I felt, and I was sending a letter, like everything was invested in that, and how eloquent I could be. So all of those things are atrophying in us in some degree. Yeah. And it's going to become incumbent on us to actually like really like tell our children and enrich ourselves and like rediscover literature, rediscover fine arts, rediscover really good music, things that challenge. That's my mic drop.
I think just in addition to that, it's also supporting more independent distribution. I think in all sense of the word, because that's like you said, curiosity stream. It's these platforms that sometimes kind of like trying to do things differently, because again, that's where you might discover something that's really worthwhile. Anything else?
Any other questions about Abby's boobs at all, or no?
They were very nice, apparently.
They were my first. They were, yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't this laziness help us focus on whatever's next? Instead of wasting time writing an email, right?
Yeah.
Because I quit my job some time ago, and I wrote my goodbye email, and wouldn't that allow us to focus on other stuff?
That's not giving well.
Let's imagine Jerry Maguire doing that. Like he went home and it was like he did his thing. I mean, it depends what you fill that space with. Like, yes, I think it is great that I don't have to deal with the mundane. I think it's great that like when I'm like, you know, if I have to figure out what my, you know, monthly budget is, that I'm not like in the back of the checkbook seeing like, okay, I deducted this and this. Like that drudgery is gone. But it's really what you fill it with. Have I taken that out and have I just replaced that with playing World of Warcraft? It probably isn't doing very much for my brain.
What race?
Yeah.
What are you playing?
No, I'm not playing it. I didn't even get the joke. I thought World of Warcraft.
Diego has a new show where he plays Dungeons and Dragons with people. It's great.
Oh, I want to watch that.
Yeah. So I just replying to that question, which I think is interesting. It's strange that to feel that automation has given us more free time, because it has given you more free time to consume, not to create. Okay. I think there's a fundamental difference. There's a fundamental difference between production and seduction. Okay. And I think art should be seductive, not productive. And this according to me is the fundamental antagonism between artificiality and craftsmanship. And what do I mean by this? Production, by pro, you know, the history, the how do you say, the etymology. The etymology of the word production is to produce. So you're in pro of. So you're following a line, you're following an argumentation, you're going through the desired end. Seduction is deviation, right? So there's a fundamental difference between production and seduction. Artificial intelligence and the logic of consumption is productive, and art is seductive. You see? So I agree with his comment. It's not about, now I have more free time to do stuff. What stuff? So because if you're using that time to consume, produce, be more efficient, then it's not really free time. I think the only true human resistance to production is seduction, directly seduction. And in that sense, I think art is supposed to give consolation to the unadapted and to feel the adapted feel unconsolable. I know it's kind of a weird sentence, but art should make the unease feel at ease, and should make the people at ease feel uneasy with the world.
Wow.
Because otherwise, if art doesn't challenge you to anything, if it doesn't provoke a reflection, a deep reflection about reality, then it's not seductive. It's just productive. If art is giving you what you want, it's not art. Art should challenge you. And AI doesn't challenge because we created it, because it's just regurgitating what we taught him to do. That's why I think there's a true fundamental difference. But what is interesting to me is that it makes us reflect back on what we used to call art, and then it shows how many crappy formulaic shows and music we have been dealing with. And this is not new. It has existed for a very long time. Now it's just so evident, And then we're gonna have to find alternative financial mechanisms for small artists to survive. Otherwise, they're just gonna be going into the meat grinding machine and disappearing and being discouraged very quickly. And potentially, the next Mozart was already born, but he was never given the option to play a piano. We have to think about the notion that Mozart too was already born and died in a cobalt mine in Congo, and he never had the opportunity to play an instrument. This is what is heartbreaking, according to me, because the machine of production and efficiency does not allow for seduction. And as humans, according to me, we should fight for more seduction.
Or we become machines.
Follow that. That was good.
I think
I want to fuck some shit up right now.
I think that's a great spot to finish this conversation. I want to thank our panelists, Diego, and my God, you are very eloquent, my friend. My brother in arms, Danny Zuker, Charles, and Stuart. Thank you so much.